day.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us at In My Experience.
I was going to say Piperlyne.
No.
That's hilarious. I'm not Piperlyne. I'm Sonya Lee.
Tricksters, we should do that.
Shapeshifters.
Yes,
that was the
there
card
go.
we
That was
pulled
one
today.
Of the cards. So she's Sonya Lee and I am Piperlyne.
There you go. And
last I checked.
Right. Unless something's changing again. And it's very possible in the world we're living in right now. Shit, I don't know. Up is down.
Mm-hmm.
Cats or dogs. I don't know. Anyway, we were trying to figure out what we wanted to share this week, and we debated about talking. So it's going to be a little blendy. I don't know where it's going to go. We might go back to the archetypes and talk about the child.
I mean, we were chatting about that right before.
But then we're also just talking about the sense and the feeling that, does it feel like you're just waiting for something right now? Piperlyne said she had seen this TikTok where whoever was talking was saying that there's just this sense, this feeling in the atmosphere of waiting, expectancy. That's what it is.
Yes, like something, and there was no discussion of what it was, other than there's the thought that based off of where you are, who you are, what you believe, you may be thinking or waiting for something specific to happen, or thinking something specific is going to happen.
Or hoping.
But just a sense of expectation, of anticipation, and not necessarily in a positive sense. I mean, it's wonderful to anticipate, going on the trip of a lifetime or,
right.
or whatever. So not in a positive sense, but in a sense of all the stuff that I used to do in my life isn't worth it anymore because something else, or because of everything that has happened, or because there's this sense of that something else is going to happen.
Or what is coming next.
Or what it is, yeah. I mean,
right?
I was talking at home, and I was talking about the feeling of the apocalypse, or some version of it. Like there was a video that I saw of in Greece. Greece is on fire.
Oh, yes.
And it was a video of someone standing at the back of a ferry. It's nighttime, and the only place for these people to go that was safe from the fire was in the ferry. So the ferry's packed full of these people who live in this village, and it's nighttime, and they're taken, right, it's just made with your standard phone camera, and you're looking at it, and it looks like a picture from some apocalyptic movie.
Yeah.
Where the world is on fire.
The whole Mediterranean's on fire. And this is Leo. This is fire energy.
Well, and
there's fires everywhere in the world right now.
California, again, their air quality the highest air quality goes is 500, and they're over 500. So it's like smoking 35 cigarettes a day, someone equated it.
Yeah, that's terrible.
In the air. And so it's like this constant feeling of the shoe to drop, the next shoe to drop, what shoe is going to drop.
Right. Like if you bring out your apocalyptic bingo cards, what do you still need to be able to claim bingo?
Bingo!
Not much. In fact, I'm about to get a full-on card.
Right.
My card, I still haven't hit bingo, but my card's almost full.
Right.
I'm not quite sure.
I'm almost blacked out.
But I'm just, I'm personally just like, whatever. I don't know if that's I'm numb or if it's I've surrendered.
Right.
I'm just rolling with it, It's kind of like being out in the ocean, right? And I'm just on my boogie board, and I'm just sitting out there, and I'm just chatting with a friend, and we're just kind of bobbing along.
Riding the wave.
And then after a while we go, oh, look, here comes a big one. Maybe we should surf this in. What do you think? We've been out here talking for half an hour, and then we just sort of ride that wave in. But I don't have to. I could just sit out there bobbing on the boogie board.
This is true.
And watching everybody else get tumbled to the shore.
Well, I do think that And I'm not saying that you are numb, but I do think that that is a real experience for a lot of people right now. Feeling numb, just like I just can't
Right.
do anymore. But our life is continuing, and it doesn't even have to be your personal experience in life. It could just be what you're seeing going on outside of you.
Correct.
Right? It's just being in that atmosphere or that environment. And if you happen to be an empath, which we have talked about, you could get wrapped up in all that energy, even if in your personal life you're still riding on the boogie board, just hanging out.
Right. Or it could be that you just don't care about your fellow man, and therefore, so what? That's their problem.
Well,
There's those out there.
That could
My
be
life
too.
is great. I don't know what everybody else is complaining about. Well, as the card in the Osho tarot deck, right? You're riding through town on a tiger, getting a ticker tape parade. Just don't forget you're riding a tiger. That could change. And, a little compassion goes a long way.
Yeah.
A little grace, and that's the other thing that has been interesting. I don't know if it's because everybody's been busy with back to school. I haven't noticed as much hate being flung around. Again, it could be the dog days of summer. Maybe we're just hot and tired and we're over it and we don't even have the energy, to argue with each other. I don't know. We'll see what happens once fall turns, but and that makes me a little happy because I kind of feel like because I'm so exhausted, we talked about this last week, the energy, and I was listening to someone talk on Sunday and they were actually talking about this and saying that, there are those of us that may be feeling a little under the weather, and it's because we're actually going through some sort of, purge or cleanse or whatever. And, even if you don't go into the woo-woo, we know physiologically speaking, every 6 months, the body goes through a complete cellular cleanse, if you will. All the cells get regenerated about every 6 months. All your hormones reset. All of that stuff goes through a reset about every 6 months. And sometimes it feels like it's going on for 6 months. But in any event, this sort of sense of feeling like I'm tired, I can't seem to get anything done, or I'm just not feeling well. I'm not sick, but I'm not feeling great. And, that to me is absolutely energetic.
Right.
I don't know what energy it is. I haven't figured that out yet. I'm getting that it is energetic, though, because I've gone to the doctors and I've had every test I could have, so there's nothing wrong with me physically. And
I know a number of other people, yeah.
Right. And that's another kind of big thing. So we're waiting for something. We're not sure if we're going to be able to stay up till midnight to hear the clock strike. And that's, and at least, we're not, we don't have any murder hornets yet.
No murder hornets. I tell you what, I will say that I am tired enough that I went to bed. I went to bed early enough last night that I woke up at 10:30.
Wow.
Nolan and I had woken up at 2:30
the night before.
Thursday morning, and we're up all day. So yeah, as soon as he fell asleep, I crawled into my bed and fell asleep and woke up at 10:30 going, oh, is it morning?
It's so disorienting, isn't it?
So I feel that. And it's not, that is my personal life, not sleeping well for numerous reasons. But even when I do, I'm still
tired.
Yeah.
Weary, worn out.
Yeah, worn out. Not necessarily tired in the fact that I want to go to sleep, but yeah, worn out.
Yeah. It is very interesting because I'm a very active person. I do a lot. And this has been the summer. I almost want to call it the summer of sloth because all I want to do is get in my RV and go somewhere to get out of the heat. And I'm a desert rat. The heat doesn't normally bother me.
And
this
the
year,
heat hasn't been that.
And it doesn't matter. It's the humidity.
It's
That's
the humidity.
What it is. I could never live in Atlanta because
it is much more humid. Well, because we've had such dry summers
oh,
for the past number of years.
it's just, I feel fatigued, y'all. I am fatigued. I was trying to think of the word that my grandmother used to use for that, and I can't remember it, but it was some variation of fatigued with her southern drawl. But anyway, yeah. And I feel like the thing I'm waiting for is that to end. So that I can.
I'm always waiting for summer to end.
You're always waiting for summer. It's an endless summer.
I am always waiting for summer to end.
We didn't have a very cool winter, though, this past winter.
No, we didn't, and it was not satisfying.
I mean, October was really cold, and then that was it.
It wasn't satisfying. Yeah. That is correct. So are you waiting for the weather to change? Maybe that's what you're waiting for.
Hello, we're your weather ladies.
In the hopes that maybe that something else would change.
You're energetic weather ladies. I like that.
There you go.
We're taking the temperature of the energy, and we find it to be
too much or lacking.
Right. Very thick, very dense, very heavy.
I can't breathe.
Very draining.
Very draining.
And, what are you going to do? You just got to, life keeps going on, so you got to go on with it. And I feel like today sort of not quite sure what we were going to talk about is because of all that we just talked about.
Well, I just got a recommendation. I receive energy work called NAET. And if you haven't heard of it and you're interested, it's a wonderful thing. It combines Oriental medicine, kinesiology, acupressure, chiropractic, and it's a beautiful thing. It was created 20 years ago by a Oriental medical chiropractic doctor. She has degrees in all three of those. Anyway, NAET.com, the letters. So I've been doing this for years. It was introduced, I don't know, I just saw it one day and I'm like, okay, I need to do this. And so I started doing it for my son, and I've been doing it for myself. Anyway, my practitioner recommended yesterday, she's like, your adrenals are challenged. And I said,
what a kind way to put it.
Yes, they are. And so she recommended a herb. No, I can't. Hold on. Rhodiola.
Oh, okay.
And, it's a well-known herb. You can get it from, they've got it on Amazon. They didn't have it at Sprouts, but I'm sure that, you could find a herb place that sells it. I ordered it online. And she's like, and I said, yeah, that and menopause kicking my ass. She said, oh, yeah. So she's like, so try this, and if you're anything like everyone I know, including myself, she's like, you will love this, and it will help you feel better. She said they use it all over the world to help promote wellness, basically. And she said there's been a book written on it by 2 psychiatrists in New York, studying it, saying how we need to use it in the U.S., but in the U.S. we have a tendency towards pharmaceuticals as opposed to herbs.
Correct.
So anyway, I ordered it, and I just got it today. So I took one, and I don't know.
Well, you'll have to tell us how that works.
I will. I'm excited. She was all about it.
And just, FYI, we are not medical professionals and we are not offering medical advice. Please see your physician before trying any new supplements or
Yes, this
Thank
is
you.
my experience.
Now,
and what
now,
I am
now the
doing.
lawyer sat back down and
That's
has
right.
calmed his jets because he was getting a little panicky over there. We're just talking here, people.
Right,
We're
I am
just
not recommending.
talking. So, because we also talked about, maybe looking at the archetype of the child, and there's quite a few archetypes within the child.
Right, it's of course there can't be just one child.
No, there is the wounded child, the orphan child, the magical child, the innocent child, the divine child. Did I get them all?
The nature child.
Oh, yes.
And the eternal child.
Oh, yes. So that's lots of children. And obviously we have to look at those as each one because they are all a story within themselves. The archetype of the child, which is one of the 4 core archetypes, is the guardian of innocence.
Mm-hmm.
And according to Carolyn Mice, it is the archetype. This archetype is our beginning point. We most easily identify with this child. Here in America, apparently we have taken this, in her opinion, too far, and we now blame our childhood for everything that bothers us or that we bother as an adult.
Well, you hear about other countries like Denmark or Finland. They take their children and wrap them up and leave them in their carriage outside when they go to have lunch.
Mm-hmm.
You've got children in Japan who are riding the trains on their own at 6 and 7 years old. And the U.S., much of the U.S.,
Mm-hmm.
or the larger culture of the U.S. has taken a completely different turn.
Yes.
There's a lot of talk about for some reason we have become a country that has been scared of allowing our children to get bored. We don't allow them to have summers. We have to schedule them to do everything all the time. And I could go on and on and on. And so that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that there is definitely work that needs to be done in acknowledging child pain and trauma, because we also have a history of just completely ignoring that.
And much more older generations, not children that are up and coming now.
Right.
And yes, I know in our childhood it was pretty much a suck it up, you'll be fine, go outside
Go
and play.
drink water from the garden hose.
Right.
And
dust it off and
come breathe in my secondhand smoke.
Yeah. Pretty much. You got an earache? Here, let me blow some smoke in it. I think
There
I had
you
3
go.
uncles that offered to blow smoke in my ear when I had an earache.
There you
Not
go.
one of them offered me a Tylenol, though. I'm not judging. I'm just saying.
But have we swung too far
Right.
from what our childhood,
Sure.
which there are wonderful, lovely freedoms that we had that.
I had everything that there was to have as a child, but I played in the canals and the ditches and had dirt clog fights with my brothers and all kinds of crazy stuff. And now as an adult, I'm immune to pretty much everything. I'm lucky if I get sick once every 3 or 4 years, knock on wood. It's because I'm due. I need to purge the body again. But for the most part, and then of course working in a hospital for a number of years too, that would have rounded out my immunization, my immune boosting system. And I think about that sometimes because so much kids don't get to go out and do that, and everybody's got the hand sanitizer ready at every second. And, germs are healthy. I just went to go see my gastroenterologist and don't have to get a colonoscopy for another year. Woo! And yet he did share with me that he was a new doctor that I went to see, that I tried somebody different, and he obviously has read The Second Brain, which was a book that was put out several years ago. I can't remember the doctor's name.
Talking about the digestive system, right?
Right, and
Yeah.
how we have a second brain in our gut.
Right.
And that gut absolutely has a lot to do with the way that our whole physiological system works. It is as important as our brain. And did you like how I said that? Brain.
Brain. Everyone knew, as long as we know what you're talking about, the brain.
You know,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna call it brain 1, brain 2. How about that? In any event, he talked about how they'd been doing some studies. His wife is a psychologist, and they were looking at a correlation between gut issues and depression and anxiety. And so they did a clinical trial study where they had people that had small bowel inflammation to take a probiotic daily. And it healed the small bowel inflammation. Like, we check the colon, but we don't always check, the part of the small bowel to see if that's inflamed.
Right.
And it has helped with depression, anxiety, gas, all of those other issues. We're talking, medical ease here. But my point about talking about this is that it gave me something else, because all the things considered, everything I'm doing, why am I still being challenged with this stuff, right? Like, I've given up sugar, and I've given up gluten, and I've given up lactose, and, what is going on with me? And so this is Uranus and Taurus. And we have this until 2026, where, like, getting to know you, getting to know all about you.
Getting to know all about your body.
Right? And our earth, and our homes.
Right.
And all of these things, anything that's Korean, our money. Look at all this talk about cryptocurrency. Look at all these issues. Purdue just had another recall of chicken, which I've personally been off chicken and eggs for a while, which is hard for somebody that doesn't eat gluten. Eggs are like your best friend, and not right now. So I've been taking a probiotic to see. It's only been about, 10 days now. I am noticing, though, I don't get bloated after I eat dinner, which was really bothersome for a little bit there. Tia, let me know if this is too much information for y'all out there. My point is, though, is that, and this was the point that the doctor and I talked about. At first blush, I'm not running into the doctor's office to find a pill or a procedure to deal with my issue.
Right.
I'm doing my own. That being said, they invented penicillin. People stopped dying.
Right.
Yeah?
There are life-saving things.
Absolutely. Hit me with the defibrillator.
A sinus infection could kill you.
Yeah.
I would be dead by now.
My son had osteomyelitis in his knee when he was 5. And besides the fact that the doctor found it incredibly rare and surprising that this 5-year-old who didn't injure himself had this very severe bone infection, shared with me that prior to the invention of penicillin, this 100% killed people. There was nothing to stop it from just going through the whole system.
Right.
I think we refer to that as sepsis today. Once it moves through your system, not the osteomyelitis.
Right.
So, it's another part of these shifts and changes, right? Because that's the first thing. Why am I tired? Let's look at my diet. Let's look at my, exercise. And because I've not been feeling really great, let's look at my sleep. I've not been exercising as much as I normally have because I'm tired and my joints hurt. And, and then there's Jupiter and Neptune in retrograde. And those, I found out, can also have some interesting effects on our physical body as well as, our mental or emotional state of being as well. And like we talked about last week, right? If we know that the tides can have an effect, why can't all these big planets lining up really, really close? Like, they're closer to us now than they have been as far as we can record. I'm sure it's happened before. I'm sure it'll happen again. But when we started writing shit down, this is the first time that we've been seeing some of these alignments that we've been seeing for, the last couple of years.
Right.
And so when you talk about waiting for something to happen, my waiting for something to happen is for this to be done with so I can just get back to the business of getting on.
So I can move on to other things.
Move on to other things, or at the very least, and have summer come to an end. I don't know. Whichever comes first, whichever works.
Well, they have found with the brain and the second brain, they have found a connection that is continuing to be researched regarding autism and the gut.
Oh, 100. I read an article about that too.
Right. And so it continues to be researched, and not necessarily, maybe not a cause, maybe not a cure, but something that has been shown to be helping people who have common symptoms of autism. Like my son, he really struggles with digestive issues, and he has since the moment he came earthside, right? And he was 13 weeks early, so
there might have been a little underdevelopment.
Started with that right there. But so there's really interesting research going on, and that goes back to, again, of what we're eating and how it is affecting us, not just physically, but it affects our mental health.
Absolutely.
And affects our emotional health.
Absolutely. And the ADD and ADHD, my earring just went flying, thank you. I know that also there have been some studies that, link those diet and certain things, especially like dyes and additives, with the issues of triggering or exacerbating those conditions.
Well, serotonin lives in the gut along with the brain, which is, I was just talking about serotonin in my son. So, yeah.
And this again, why are we having this conversation? Well, because it's what we're talking about.
Because it came up.
And there is, and this is what I love, because there are things going on in the world or in our world or with me personally, and I can find an astrological connection there. I'm not saying it's a confirmation. I'm not saying that it's the answer. I'm just saying that there's a connection there. And like everything else, I like to pull in from all the different areas where I can gain resources to help me to, make the best, most informed decision or have the best understanding, whatever. And, we haven't seen a lot because we had the COVID clump going on, or the Capricorn clump of 2020. So even though Uranus moved into Taurus in May of 2019, we're just now really getting to see it shine. And, there's a lot of planets that, we've got that Gemini North Node, and then it's going to be moving into the Taurus North Node. So I think 2020... going into 2022, 2023, we're going to see more of this. And like we were talking earlier, we're already seeing how this is having an effect on the earth as well. There are fires everywhere.
Right.
There are,
And there just continues to be.
Right. And then you take Pluto, which is going to be in Capricorn until 2024. There's viruses everywhere.
Right.
There was this new bacteria, flesh-eating bacteria I heard about. And there was some other... bacteria, that one wasn't, it was an internal bacteria, not like a flesh-eating one. I think it was in Texas and a couple other states that just is all of a sudden popping up out of nowhere. And, we're going to see more of this stuff. There's going to be more of these sorts of things being brought to our attention for us to look at. And I really think the processing of all of our foods and the ingestion and consumption of all of these chemicals is really beginning to wreak havoc on us.
Right.
As a whole, as a global collective. I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they were asking about this, and I said, the best that I've been told is to eat your food as close to the earth as possible.
Right.
And so I literally count how many steps away from the earth is this bag of potato chips. A lot, I'm just saying. Right?
Right.
So, there's that.
There's that. Yeah, well, there is I mean, we as human beings, as biological organisms, can evolve. We have evolved. We do evolve.
Absolutely.
But the changes that we have put our bodies through with all the industrial age
Correct.
changes that have occurred,
Yes.
our bodies and the earth are mass, and so they move the slowest.
Yeah.
So they can evolve, and they do evolve, but it's slower. And the world around us, technology, our minds are evolving very quickly now. And the world and our physical bodies being part of the world, because it comes from the world and it goes back to the world regardless of what we do with it.
Right.
When we leave it, just doesn't move as fast.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to catch us. I mean, Sonya and I grew up in the time of TV dinners,
Yeah.
right? TV dinners came out.
Remember McDonald's used to sell a TV dinner that you could buy.
Oh my goodness! I was living in the country at that point, so I think I missed the McDonald's TV dinners.
Yes.
But I
When you got to the bottom of the tray, you could see the Hamburglar and the
oh how
Ronald
funny.
McDonald and all of the
Oh, my
Mayor
goodness.
McCheese.
Yes. Oh jeez, that's hysterical. So yeah, so it's that just happened. Before that,
It was home cooked meals.
right?
Yes.
You ate at home, and maybe you would go to a restaurant if you were rich, or if it was a very special occasion.
Very special occasion.
I mean, it's insane. Does anyone ever look at how many restaurants there are?
Right.
It's insane how do they even
How
make
many
money?
restaurant delivery services there are? Like I see them pop up. My son and I share a checking account, and I'm always like, what is GoPuff? Who is this? I mean, just
I've never heard of GoPuff.
And why? Again, and different generations. I couldn't fathom if it was going to cost me an extra $15 to get a Big Mac meal. I'd get off my lazy ass and drive down to the McDonald's. I'm just saying. I don't even eat McDonald's.
I remember.
And I think nothing of paying somebody to bring them food. Bad food.
I remember.
And we still can't get grocery delivery. What the hell? Anyway,
Yeah.
that's the changing dynamic, right?
Right.
And then, like you said, the interesting thing is, again, because we're slower moving, now we're starting to see things like HelloFresh and all these different meal prep delivery systems. They are delivering meals that you can cook.
Blue Onion.
Blue
Apron.
Yeah. So we're trying to get back to healthier eating again, because we recognize that all the processed food isn't good for us, but we still don't want or don't have the time to cook.
Right.
And it's either time or skill, is what I see. And I can't help but feeling like we're evolving, and we're going to need to evolve some more. I'll just put it that way. I won't judge it. I'll just say, I see we're going to need to do some more evolving.
Yeah.
Because I don't quite think that there's that. For me, I love to cook. I enjoy to cook, and so maybe it's a little bit different. I didn't always, I wasn't, well, that's not true. I did cook when I was a kid. I improved my cooking skills as I got older, and then it really did become a thing where it's cathartic for me to cook. And I can cook it just as quickly as I could order it, usually.
Yeah.
I remember to take it out of the freezer. And I know energetically that I'm having an effect on the food that I'm preparing. Well, one, I Reiki everything. Whenever I'm in the kitchen, Reiki's on. And, the mom's spit. There's a thing to that. Some of y'all may have experienced that in your homes. But there's a difference. And my family will actually say that. We'll go out to get something, and they're like, yeah, it's good, but it wasn't as good as what you could have made. Well, I was tired. I worked all day. I didn't want to make anything tonight, right? And I've caught myself in this. Maybe I'm solving my own problems from the beginning of this episode. Why am I not feeling well? I've been eating out a lot. Energetically. Our food has an energy. If you ever just this has been an interesting one in our household, because we are meat eaters. Not a lot, usually just one meal, but we do still eat some meat. And we haven't been eating a lot of certain, like I said, we're off chicken. And the last time we were doing pork quite a bit, but the last 2 times I've cooked pork, either myself or my husband have been like, is that good? Because it just smells awful.
I had that last week.
What is that?
My mom made she was cooking, I don't, pork whatever in the Instapot, right? And I walk in the house, I think it was last weekend, like after our last recording, I walk in the house, I'm like, oh dear God, what is that?
Yeah.
And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, what is that? What is that smell? It stinks. Oh my God, I interrupted you. It was horrendous.
That's exactly
It was horrendous.
I'm glad you did, because I just thought there was someone. I'm not going, does this smell good? Does this smell, and for me, it's always, well, if it tastes bad when it's cooked, then it's bad.
Yeah.
It may be good or bad, when it's raw. But if it's still bad when it's cooked, then you can throw it away because it's bad. And so one time it was good, and then the second time it wasn't. And we ended up throwing it away. And then, of course, my mind immediately goes to, well, we probably are still eating 2020 food. Because let's face it, like we got some apples, and it was like, why are these apples so mushy? It's like they're old. Yeah,
Yes.
because they're probably from 2020. Remember, the whole world stopped.
This is true.
That stuff's been sitting in a bin.
Could be.
In a barn somewhere, a silo, and they're raising the prices and serving us old food. I just did it. Conspiracy theory.
Well, it's probably the only food they can get, though.
But even if it's true or not, vibrationally speaking, this is where I'm coming from. I get a confirmation on that one. Vibrationally, I'm still eating 2020 food.
No, I hear you.
And the vibration of 2020... Well, I prefer not to bring anything from 2020 into 2021. Let's just put it that way. And so, and we didn't buy much, like meat and stuff in 2020. Because I just was like, people sick in there. They don't know they're sick. They're handling food. And then they closed down Tyson. And I like, see, I told you. And so I hate it when I'm right. So, am I becoming vegan? I don't think so. However, I am recognizing that the sensitivity is absolutely, once again, shifting me from a diet thing. And it's not funny, because there are a lot of people that are just like, oh, you're just so sensitive. I would love to just be able, I want to just be able to eat whatever, whenever, however.
Right.
I'm a moderation, everything in moderation kind of gal. I always have been. This is not fun. This is not a good time for me, and I'm just trying to not have it be, an irritation that's pissing me the fuck off, because that's not a good vibration for me to be in. And yet, I'm, tipping my hat to you, Mr. Uranus in Taurus, because you're messing up my food.
Well, I know I'm not happy with the sensitivity I've been feeling either.
And I'm sure others are feeling it too, and maybe they're not even aware of it. Like, I know there's one person that it's a husband of a friend of mine, not really very open-minded to a lot of things, has really been struggling a lot with the GERD and all of that, and just like tried everything. And I'm like, have you tried probiotics? He won't try anything, but he'll keep taking Prilosec. It won't go by the way of Zantac in the future, I'm sure. So
probiotics isn't even woo-woo.
Hello.
It isn't,
right?
But, to each their own journey.
And then we were talking earlier, too. We were having a pantyhose discussion.
Yes.
And it made
once
me
again
think about,
showing our age.
Right? It made me think about how, and again, TMI, if you just stop listening right now if you don't want to hear it.
La, 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 la.
But, Candida.
Yeah.
I had no idea what Candida was.
Right.
I just knew I experienced a lot of discomfort.
Right.
And now, I can't tell you the last time I've had an issue with Candida. And it's just about getting rid of the acidity in my body. Being too alkaline can be bad for you as well.
Well, my son had that problem. I mean, he went through yeast infections in the NICU. I mean,
thrush is so bad for the little babies. Oh.
I had thrush.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so it was just a mess. So he has been sensitive to yeast infections all of his life until he's been on probiotics every single day for years at this point. And I double them when he's on antibiotics because he still has to take antibiotics if he, still get ear infections. Maybe after tonsils and adenoids being removed, things will be clearer up there for him.
Yes, no.
I hope so.
I had a kid that would get ear infections from milk.
Yeah.
It was a lactose intolerance. Took the doctor and I forever to figure that one out.
Right.
So there are lots of things that can factor into this. Diet is a big thing. Environment is a big thing.
Right.
There was a commercial, I think it was for Windows, and it was from a Swedish company. Maybe it was Danish. Nope, it was Swedish. I have to try and see if I can find that video. But it was the most amazing video because it talked about how we had moved as a society from people that rarely spent time indoors, that were usually outside and in the sun and all that, to moving indoors and then sealing our indoors, and how we were living in these toxic environments because of lack of ventilation, lack of sunlight, all of these things. And then it ended, this amazing discussion ended with, by these windows.
Which,
I know. I know.
Doesn't mean that the information that was shared isn't valid.
It was still, you know what? Listen, if you're going to educate me and then you've got a product, I'm willing to listen. Right?
At least I'll be educated.
That's
in the process.
right.
Yeah, well, I think that is one of the most frustrating things for me about summer here.
Yes.
Is because here, at least here in Arizona, right? If I lived in Michigan, I don't know if I'd have my windows open in the winter time.
In the winter, right.
Right. But, as soon as I can, and even in the summer when I can, windows are open. Oh. And I even in the winter time when it hits 40, 30 at night, I've got my bedroom window open because give me the fresh air, baby, even if it's just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not doing it at night when it's cold, but during the day, yes.
I just let's put an extra blanket.
Let's air this place out.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so it just feels good. And that is another thing where we have evolved, and that's happened quickly.
Oh, really quickly.
Right? Just recently in the evolution of
probably
mankind.
in the last 40 years, honestly.
Right. So our human bodies, once again, are not, even where I'm living right now, sans the pork stink, there was a while there where I was like, it just stinks in here. Like the air conditioning stinks. The air conditioning in my car stinks. And I have become, and I don't know if that's actually shifted.
You can smell the Freon.
Is that, so I have just become that sensitive.
Probably.
But I can't sit in the heat. I can't not have air conditioning, not here.
Right.
And so the sensitivity, that's where my sensitivity is coming in. I smell everything.
It's just terrible.
I smell everything. And I'm like, I didn't need to smell that.
No, twice in the last week I had Sean looking through the house trying to figure out what that chemical, electrical, something's on fire smell that I smelt when I walked into the house.
Yes, you walk in and you can smell it. You're like, do y'all smell that?
It's like a chemically electrical kind of, I don't know what the tires, rubber, I don't know what it is.
Right. Yes.
Yes. Super sensitive.
So imagine that. Sonia and I are smelling the same scents in different houses. So how about you?
So unusual.
It's shocking.
Yes, I do wonder, are we the only ones? Have you guys sat here and listened to us for 45 minutes going, those girls are wackadoodle?
They're crazy. We were talking about another question completely unrelated, but related. Both Sonia and I, as we were going through 2020, we both talked about many times, and probably even on the podcast, how we started preconditioning for 2020 in 2019.
Yes.
So Sonia's was through guidance.
Yes, my people said to take a break.
Right. And mine was, I don't know if there was guidance and I was ignoring it, or they're just like, girlfriend, we're just shutting you down now. And they started shutting me down, making what I was doing in my life not available to me anymore.
Right.
In
Nowhere to
2019.
go, nothing to do.
Right.
Nothing to see here.
So you're just going to sit at home. So we started it a year early. We were like at early training. And that's something else I want to know too. I mean, we talk about Sonya and I. Yes, we're very similar, but we can't be the only two people on this planet who started pre-training for 2020 in 2019.
I find it hard to believe that we're the only ones listening. Honest to God. Knowing you, knowing me, we're not those, I mean, we're good listeners, but we're not great listeners.
Right. I mean, it has to be, other people had to have experienced it too, because I was also, it got me thinking about it, was something that I heard where they were talking about empaths getting the feeling in 2019 that something was going to happen in 2020. And I'm not talking about intuitive knowing that a pandemic was coming, just a sense of I'm changing my life now because
Correct.
I need to.
Correct.
Before, and then something else occurred.
Well, and I remember, and I know that there's been a lot of stuff out there to debunk it. Nonetheless, this was why it was in academia, where they were doing these random number generators and these seismic Geiger counters, and they had them all around the world, and the data was acting up during 9/11. And not on the day, 2 days prior to 9/11. Globally, these things started going off the Richter scale.
Right.
And then later, when they were finding all of these sort of like correlations, then they started testing that. And they were finding that there is a vibe
Right.
that moves through. Now, I'm going to give you another example of this. Because again, I understand that there were some things that came out that debunked that research. Just stay with me.
Mm-hmm.
Stop screaming at the podcast. There's also things where people are drawn to a lot of the similar things.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was this one time I was talking with my son about wouldn't it be great if we could create this, fast food that was healthy food, and the very next day on the cover of the Gilbert Gazette or whatever the Gilbert Times was, they were talking about how they were creating a salad to go. And then they came out with Delish and da-da-da, right? And you've seen this in other things where it's like somebody starts something and then you find out that there are other people that are also doing that same thing.
Absolutely.
And there was some research that was done on this, and I think we did talk about this once before. There was an article about it, and it's like, and it was had something to do with a channeled message that somebody had gotten from the archangels, and they were talking about how there are these messages that go out, like broadcasts, and they're really for everybody. But only those, right?
The frequency, that
Yes.
type of thing, right?
But only those that actually get it and act upon it are the ones that will benefit from it.
Right.
But these messages, these signals are being projected out there all the time. And, again, SETI's whole purpose is listening to the sounds of space.
Mm-hmm.
There's always some sort of a frequency. And if you get dialed into it, then you might get some information that you might do something with or benefit from.
Right.
And I think right now, we're very much in tuned to what's coming.
Right. And I wanted, and this is not, how do I want to put this? This is not looking at the physical material world saying, look, we are going down this path. Well, there may or may not be validity to whatever thought that is. This is outside of the material world. This is, and I'm trying to think, and I may very well get it wrong, and I apologize to those who I will not be crediting correctly.
We'll correct it in the blurb.
But it was supposedly either, I think it was Prince talking, and it's a statement that he made that he gets this information. these ideas,
Oh, love it.
and that he knows that he needs to act on it, because if he doesn't, Michael Jackson will.
Oh my gosh.
Because they're running on the same frequency,
Absolutely.
getting the same, and it's exactly what you're talking about. And I explain it because I talked about it for a period of time as your antennas, your sensitive antennas, and wherever they are, there's no right or wrong. Just wherever they are in the universe is the information that you're going to pick up.
It's like when you're driving cross country and your radio
The
station
radio
goes out.
station.
And then you got to dial it around until you find another frequency.
But it's available for everyone.
It is there. You just got to dial into it, and you got to be in that area.
And not everyone's going to pick up on it and do
Right.
something about it.
So in my Messiah's Handbook, I pulled up a thing about it. Richard Bach wrote this book, and in the book, I can't remember the name of it, he talked about Messiah's illusions. That's what the book was called. He kept referring to Messiah's Handbook, and then he actually wrote this little book called Messiah's Handbook, and it is about reminders for the, can't read that. Oh, reminders for a fractured soul. And so there's all these little quotes, and the quote I just opened up to says, every event is subjective. Not what it means that matters, but what it means to you. So I feel like what this whole conversation was about today,
Which was not about the child.
right, at all,
We tried, it didn't happen.
is that there's a lot of things going on in you, around you, with you, without you,
For you, to you.
because of you,
Take your choice, you.
and they're subjective.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what I think, doesn't matter what she thinks, doesn't matter what anybody thinks, it only matters what you think. So, and within that, I say, don't follow it blindly, explore.
Right.
Because there are some things that might only be real for you that are a little on the cray-cray spectrum. Not judging, just saying. And then there are other things that may not be, but everyone else thinks they're on the cray-cray spectrum.
Right.
So, suffice to say, it's a wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey kind of world out there right now, and you're not alone. So if you thought you were, if any of this resonated with you, please let us know so that we know that we're not crazy. And we will continue to share what we know, because that's how we grow.
What we know, what we experience, what we learn, what we question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and hang in there, because there's always tomorrow. Like I say, just because it didn't happen yesterday doesn't mean it can't happen today. And if it's not happening today, there's nothing to say that it can't happen tomorrow. Those were a lot of negatives in a positive statement.
And if you're feeling upset, let down, exhausted, can't make decisions, overwhelmed, get some sleep, and look at it the next day.
Yeah. And meditate. Meditate helps too.
Yeah.
That just sitting and being still and quieting the mind and allowing your body to have just a small little break can be very beneficial. Breathing deeply. I've noticed lately myself and others, there's some, again, there's a lot of crud in the air, so it's hard to breathe through our noses. But breathing through your mouth is not full oxygenation.
Right.
So close your mouth before the flies get in there.
4-count breath. Make a square with your breath.
There you go. I like that. And till next week, when we will hopefully have a little more structure to the show.
Try to dive into the child again.
We will take a look. Maybe this is us being children going, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to be a child anymore. I'm Sonya Lee.
And I'm Piperlyne. Thank you for joining us.
Good day.